Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. Today I'm looking at a book which is the Law Society Handbook, which is just falling apart as I speak. I'm trying to get it to stand up. It's quite a heavy book. There it is. We'll have a look at it in a minute. It's the Solicitor's Handbook 2017, been written again by Andrew Hopper, Queen's Counsel, and Gregory, Treverton-Jones, Queen's Counsel. This is the 2017 version, coming to us from the Law Society and Law Society publications. Elizabeth and I looked at this book and we've come up with a title for our book review. No solicitor should be without this formidable annual handbook, which is now in a new edition from the Law Society. Well, let's have a look at the book first of all, if it doesn't fall over. It's a heavy book, actually. There it is. It's one of the Legal Handbooks series of books. You can see there's the front cover. Then you've got the spine, and you've got some blurb on the back, which you can probably see. I'll just move that back a bit. Some basic information about the book. You've also got some shaded areas, which will show you where to find certain things. The shaded areas, the big block at the back, of course, are the appendices. What you do have is a very nice index right at the back, and the index is actually listed by paragraph numbering, not page numbering. And at the front, if I can just show you the main front page, these are the various other publications from Law Society Publishing. That's the front page itself. And then from there we get into the contents section. You can see there's a large amount of information. It's a big book. It runs into 8 parts and there are 20 appendices, which you can see from the list there. Then you've got a forward to the original edition in 2008. And obviously there's a preface to 2008, the reason why this has been published. And then you've got, after that, you've got a preface to the current edition for 2017. The first edition, as I say, came out in 2007. The laws as stated at the 30th of June 2016. There are a table of cases, of course, listed there. Then you've got various other things, statutes. You've got the expected, before we get to the statutory instruments, actually you've got the statutory instruments there. Then after that you've got some European legislation and you've got other enactments of various sorts. These are codes of conduct, effectively. Then we get into the actual book itself. There we go. You can see the shaded part there. You can see the paragraph numbering, and you can see, generally speaking, there's no little bit of footnoting, very, very little. In fact, the footnoting, that looks like it's footnoting, it isn't. It's actually part of the overall text. So there isn't any actual footnoting. It's all included at the end of each of the paragraph numbers. So you can see the book is extremely helpful. It's got everything you basically need to know. And it runs to about nearly 800 pages, in fact. Now let's see if that will stand up straight. Yes, it does. Now, what do we say about the book? Well, we say this. As publishers of the Solicitor's Handbook 2017, the Law Society, in its arm Law Society Publishing, refers, quote, to the regulatory maze that governs the conduct of solicitors, adding in effect that the said burden of regulation can be eased considerably by judicious use of, and reference to, this new handbook. And it's an annual, effectively it's an annual handbook now. As their profession is so heavily regulated within a constantly changing regulatory landscape, the new edition should be regarded by solicitors as virtually a compulsory purchase. Certainly it's something you should have, because it does bring together all of the current rules that you have to which govern you and that you have to observe in your practice. And therefore I think it's something that you should be certainly aware of, and a publication that should be in the library. Since the previous edition came out, a considerable number of regulatory changes have taken place, and I'm afraid that is the way things are today. There's a lot of change on the way, and that means that instead of having these books every couple of years or 3 years, they are coming out on a more regular annual basis. And the new edition contains explanatory coverage of all of the changes that have taken place, with accompanying commentaries citing practical problems by way of illustration. And that, I think, is very helpful to a fairly stressed practitioner who may have a knotty problem that they need to have resolved. And it's the wealth of new material in this completely updated and very handy paperback volume, which includes, and this is only a partial list, the following: changes to the separate business rule, together with key changes to consumer credit regulation and the significance of these changes for firms. And additionally, there is commentary on the overhaul of the account rules and the likely move by the Solicitors' Regulatory Authority from entity regulation to regulation of individuals. So also, of course, note the new section on cyber fraud, which is a continuing problem, I think, for everybody, not just, of course, in the legal profession, but much wider than that. And it's a distinguished and certainly reassuring characteristic of the book, which is the one that it's very clear. Its clarity is just what we want. Explains things very simply so we can understand what the problems are. And yes, the efficient, plain English, plain speaking approach permeates the handbook, much to the relief, no doubt, of the busy solicitor who has precious little time to untangle convoluted sentences. Whether you work then for or run a small law firm, a large law firm, or an in-house practice, you can depend on this handbook to help you navigate the regulatory maze successfully, provided you read it carefully, of course. It has been logically designed to help you ensure compliance by avoiding a host of potential pitfalls and any number of innocent mistakes. And again, I think by reading it, you can identify quite quickly where you may be going slightly in the wrong direction. And to this end, you might be especially interested, for example, in the sections on the regulation of alternative business structures, ABSs, which are coming in, and on fraud and money laundering. Let me conclude that also useful are the 20 appendices, which I mentioned right at the back, and the extensive tables of cases, statutes, statutory instruments and other enactments, plus of course the table of European legislation and other international materials. We think no solicitor should be without this handbook, and as I've said, the law is as stated at the 30th of June 2016. I'm recording this at the beginning of 2017, and we are looking at the moment at a lot of changes again taking place. Just a quick look at the book. There it is again. There's the spine, and then there's the back. Just opening it in the middle, you can see again the huge amount of annex information. But if we just open it, this is about the extent of the powers, and it's looking specifically at money, natural justice and the Human Rights Act, extent of powers that they have at the moment, and a whole range of basic information. This actually is chapter 16, which is intervention and orderly closure. It's looking at the way, in fact, those firms will be dealt with. Grounds for action, then you've got costs. You've got a whole range of very important contents which are set out right at the beginning. You can see the overview, and then it goes through all of the main heads in the various parts, and then there are chapters underneath it to cover what you might be looking for. The disciplinary element is, of course, also very important. Well, thank you very much to both Messrs Hopper and Treverton-Jones for continuing to produce what I think is an excellent book for practitioners. It's something that we all should be aware of, because one of the problems today, the reason there are so many lawyers, is because there's so much legislation, there's so much regulation, and there's really rather a lot that we have to get on and deal with. So thank you very much to all concerned for producing this excellent new edition. Bye-bye.